is Tuesday, October 1st. This is a regular meeting of the Catalina Foothills School District Governing Board. It is 6:30, and I would like to welcome everyone to our meeting on behalf of the Governing Board. We have members of the public attending both in person and online. And in a few minutes, I'm going to read the complete rules of order for public comment at Governing Board meetings. If you wish to make a comment remotely, you should have already signed up on the Google form that's available under the YouTube Live description. If you don't see the link to the Google form, you can refresh the YouTube live stream and you should be able to find it. And if you're attending in person and intend to speak, you should have already filled out the purple form that is at the desk by the door. You would fill that out and hand it to our board secretary, Amy Sams. So for right now, I'm going to ask all to stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I am going to go ahead and read those complete rules for order. For public comment. The Governing Board welcomes public comment at its meetings by providing 2 opportunities for the public to address the board. If your topic of interest is not on the agenda, you may address the board during the public comments time slot near the beginning of the meeting, or if the topic is on the agenda, you may speak just prior to the discussion of that agenda topic. In the event there is a public hearing, the opportunity to speak is reopened. If you're joining remotely and wish to make public comment, you should have already submitted the Google form provided as we previously discussed. For those attending in person and you'd like to speak, please hand a completed purple form to Amy Sams, our board secretary. The information that is on these forms is required for our minutes. Speakers will be called on when it's their turn to address the board. For those attending remotely, you may choose to enable your camera. And as a reminder to remote attendees who wish to speak, please unmute your microphone when called upon. Each speaker has 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the number of speakers who are here to speak, to address the board. The sound of a buzzer indicates the end of your time. In the event of a large number of speakers, the board may need to limit that time so that they can conduct the business on the agenda. By law, the board cannot discuss, consider, or vote on topics that are not on the agenda. This assures the community that they are aware of the topics that will be discussed. If you wish to discuss a topic through written communication, board members' contact information can be found on the district's website. We appreciate the community's attendance and comments at this meeting, and thank you for coming. Okay, from there, we are going to go to our item 1.4, which is outstanding achievements. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bartlett, who's going to tell us about all the great things happening in our district.
Thank you. Yes, it's my privilege to highlight the following CFSD students and staff achievements. We've had 2 students that got perfect ACT scores, which, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
What's that number these days?
36.
36?
36, yes. And
Wow.
It's a wonderful achievement, achieved by only 0.313% of the population, yes, nationwide. So our 2 students are Ava Baker and Brian Shang, so
Congratulations to them.
That's amazing.
That is very amazing. We also have National Merit Scholarship Program Awards, which are another 8 of our students have been recognized as commended students in the National Merit Scholarship Program. They are part of an elite group of 34,000 nationwide for their high achievement on the 2023 preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. Although only 16,000 of the highest scoring participants advanced to the semifinalists, being named a commended student is a significant honor that reflects their hard work and dedication. So congratulations to Sebastian Cross, Ella Hennings, Lillian Lee, Sienna Mayfield, Brandon Mokhtarian, Kiranis Pappas, Nina Raju, and Zacharias Young. So wonderful achievement.
Congratulations.
Yes.
You.
Another junior, Oliver De Gia, is one of 3 Tucson junior golfers who qualified for the Pebble Beach at the Pure Insurance Championship impacting First Tee Tournament. The event which has PGA professionals from the First Tee program, took place in September. He was paired with pro golfer Retief Goosen. I don't know.
Nailed it.
Okay, Retief Goosen. Great. This is the first time Tucson has had 3 golfers make the cut. 80 juniors in all are selected based on their playing ability as well as their personal growth and life skills learned through the First Tees program. This year's group's average GPA for the people who got this award were 3.89.
Wow.
Congratulations to Oliver. And then finally, our CFHS Tech Theater on September 19th, the theater students went to the live theater workshop and participated in the Tech Challenge workshop, preparing our students for the state competition in November. So students earned the following awards: first place in knot tying, first place in light hanging, first place in legging a platform, second place in cable coiling, second place in knot tying, and third place in folding theatrical backdrops. This is all the technical side of the
Well,
theater.
very hands-on.
Very hands-on, and it's preparing them. This is the first time something to prepare them for competition. They usually don't have a preparation, but this is preparing them for a future competition. Yes.
That's great. Thanks for that report. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the star of the evening, our super volunteer recognition. Tonight we're going to be recognizing Megan Logan of Esperero Canyon Middle School, and board member Doug Hadley is going to make our presentation this evening. You can move it.
Turn it. If it turns. Oh, it does.
There you go. That way you can
That's close
talk to
enough. I got
everybody.
my work. Okay. We've never really figured this out in 8 years, but that's all right. So I like Megan. I just met her 5 minutes ago, but I like her. I like her because she's an East Sider. That's what my wife calls like Esperero and the Ventana Vista guys, East Siders. I don't know what the East Side West Side means, but I like the East Siders. And then I like her because she's a super volunteer, and I love super volunteers. I love volunteers as well, and I love occasional volunteers. I love all form of volunteers, and this is why. I think volunteers, they take a very good school like Esperero, and they turn it into a great school, right? So all of us here, the faculty, board members and the administration, we do our best to push resources down to the school. But really the people that fill the gap, the people that kind of step into the breach are the volunteers. They're the ones that they do the things, the personal things that we can't do, and they provide the resources that we just don't have. So I think volunteers are so important, and that's why I like you. I really appreciate that. So what has Megan done? Of course, she's done a ton of stuff. Did you say 8 years on the FFO? Involved with 8 years. Okay, so she's been the co-president, she's been the vice president, she's been on the site council, and then I think my favorite, though, is she's been the president of the teacher appreciation. And not that the other ones aren't good, but I think the teacher appreciation is so important. We do our best to give them the most money we can and take stuff off their plate, but in reality, it's a whole lot of work for a decent amount of money. And it's for them to feel appreciated, and what you guys do down there is so important. So she does stuff like the serve yourself caramel apples in the teacher lounge, or the tailgate lunches for the faculty and the teachers. And it's that stuff is so important because it makes such a difference, I think, to those teachers, and it puts a little spring in their step on those days where you guys are there and you're actually, recognizing them. So that was my favorite thing that I was reading about my new friend of 5 minutes. So she's got Mickey in 7th grade, and I told him I was trying to rep an Esperero shirt. I don't have any more Esperero shirts. My kids all went through Esperero, but I had to rep a high school shirt for you. But you'll be there in a couple years, right? So sure, why not? I was going to say, you'll probably, since you're kind of hooked on this FFO thing, I imagine you've got a few more years. We might have you back here 4 years from now doing this again, recognizing you. I don't want to put any pressure on you. I don't want to say you have to, but it seems like once you get into it, it's hard to break out of. I'm going to read, so this is the nomination letter from Mary. I'm going to read my favorite line in it. It's so small. My eyes are so bad. All right, here we go. As principal of Esperero, Megan has presented me with excellent feedback. She asks questions that are thoughtful and that expand the vision of the FFO board and the site council in serving our students and families. That was my favorite line in this letter, and I think it's because when you're a super volunteer and you're spending all that time at the school, it's so nice to know that your voice is heard. So the fact that she, will take the time and listen to your opinion, and you're actually not just putting your time in, but you're making a difference with, your thoughts on different issues. And Mary's not exactly a bad leader. She's a very good leader, and she knows at the end of the day, the better people she surrounds herself with, the more successful she'll be. So it's obviously why she surrounded herself with you. Now, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things I don't know about, but fortunately Mary's here. So I'm now gonna do a handoff. You're gonna come up and finish off this and speak a little bit more, and then we'll give her her award. So come on up.
Well,
because I know you need it.
I was going to say your wife and the board that I served with previously trained me well. And, that's really why I love being a principal. One of the reasons are the wonderful people that you meet, people who are pretty selfless and care about you and the school and, will do anything to help further the cause, which is, student learning, bringing resources to us and to our faculty that we would not have necessarily had. And it's about the behind the scenes work that is done by people like Megan, wonderful people who, come and sort T-shirts. It's very glamorous. Cut apples, scrape the caramel, out of a pot, clean things. It's amazing because she's just provided us with some really amazing activities that really make teachers feel special, but not only that, that raise money for our school. And we just had a wonderful fundraiser. We did a silent disco, and we raised about a little over $20,000. And that's because of the enormous volunteer effort among our parents and families and people like Megan who are there wiping off headphones for the entire day with disinfectant to make sure that nobody, transmits anything. Well, I don't even have to go there, but I want to say that it's been a privilege to work with you. And, of course, Mickey and Viv, you're also a wonderful addition to this meeting tonight. And I think this is your mom, am I right? And welcome to welcome to Catalina Foothills. And Esperero is right here because this is who we are. And I just want to say, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are a behind the scenes person. I know that the worst fear you have is you're going to have to say a couple of words, but I'm going to say you have a lot to say and your voice is important, and it is an honest and amazing voice, and I hope that you share more with us because you have a lot to share and a lot to give. And happy super volunteer, you deserve it, and I'm so happy that Dr. Bartlett, is this your first super volunteer as a superintendent? Yay! And so you get that distinction as well. So, all of my heart, love umbrella, you're under it. Thanks.
Don't go away. We're gonna do a photo. We're gonna do everybody too. Everybody comes up, mom, kids, we're doing
Julie,
big photo.
can you move the air filter out? Yeah. Thank you.
This is, we're gonna get this is
I really want that in the
framing.
picture.
And this looks like a pendant now. They changed it up on me. Mom, over here in front of this.
No, in front of the
banner.
The banner's up. Yay. I think you should be in every super volunteer picture, Jim.
really?
Now how do you go back to the?
Back up.
And she's got her purple shirt on that matches the. And cute.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, mine's not there.
Should be.
Yeah, it's okay.
Do we have a presentation tonight? No.
That was it? You're it. You're the main event.
You got away without saying a word. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all of your contributions.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
And I'm sure we'll see her at the next FFO meeting we go to.
Yeah.
too.
That's right.
Likely.
For sure.
All right, I guess we will move on to our item 2, which is public comments, and I do not seem to have any submissions this evening, either online or in person. Thanks again for coming this evening.
Yes.
We
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank
you
you.
spending
Good
time
night.
with us. Good night. All right, so it looks like we do not have public comment for this evening, so we'll move right along to our consent agenda. Does anyone have anything that they need to pull from the consent agenda? Or any questions or comments on consent agenda items?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Let me just pull it up in this new fancy system. I'm just learning after many years.
10 years?
Yes, I think, special notice is appropriate of the, item 3.7, which is the, school facilities board funding of the chiller replacement at the high school to the tune of close to $675,000. And obviously that doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It happens because our administrators and school facilities personnel apply for those funds. And of course, in the last few years, the school facilities board has been more forthcoming than in many years past with funding, and CFSD has benefited from those funds to the tune of millions of dollars, which obviously saves our capital funding for other things. And of course, it's done behind the scenes as far as this board is concerned, but I wanted to commend our administrators and school and our facilities staff for applying for these funds and winning this funding, because it's huge.
It is,
And it's for one chiller.
right?
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
And there's 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
So this is $675,000, and what do we get, about $3 million a year from the state for our fund, for capital funding, district
Yes.
additional assistance? And we have 4 of these at the high school. That puts in perspective the amount of capital funding that school districts are meant to get by on. And it really is untenable. Without this grant program, without our bonds and our overrides that our taxpayers so graciously cover for us year after year after year, our district would look a lot different. Our kids would be hot in August, September, and now October,
Yeah,
that
right.
it's 105 degrees.
Wyatt chiller costs $674,000, but that's a discussion.
Well, I would imagine
For
it's an
another
Well, you've seen
industrial
those.
They're
size chiller. You've
huge,
seen them,
though.
they're
They're
huge.
just-
They're like,
Well, it's gonna need a
Buildings.
crane. It's gonna need a crane.
yeah.
It makes me think of the times when computers filled the whole room.
Right.
When you see a chiller, that's kind of
Yes.
the effect. It's,
So, but we have to wait for all the parts and everything for a year? Or something, is it?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, everything that needs to come in to get it,
Yeah.
it could take up to a year. It may not, but.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
working currently,
Yes, it's
right?
currently
Okay.
working.
Well,
This
This
is
is a
preventative,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
we're
our students are not
anticipating that it
without
needs to be
air.
replaced.
They have air.
Okay, yeah, that's.
They have air, it's
And then,
working.
as they must do some kind of magic in order to replace it, and, because at least this.
Hopefully they replace it when it's cooler.
What?
And it's
When it's
cooler.
Yeah,
cooler,
it's cooler.
Yes.
We don't have open windows, so.
No.
Well, I mean, obviously, they have to pick the most opportune
Right.
time to
Right.
do it, but it has to be done, so. Thanks, Amy, thanks for
Try
that
to-
call out, that was excellent. I've been missing your soliloquies about our consent agenda,
Okay.
so thank you. Anybody have anything else? If not, I'd entertain a consent agenda motion.
Happy to make that motion. I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 3.1, the governing board September 24th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as presented. 3.2, the governing board September 24th, 2024 executive session meeting minutes as presented. 3.3, the expense voucher memorandum as presented. 3.4, the fundraising request memorandum as presented. 3.5, the personnel memorandum as presented. 3.6, the acceptance with gratitude of the gifts and donations memorandum as presented. And 3.7, the approval of the School Facilities Division Award to Pueblo Mechanical for the replacement of chiller 3 at Catalina Foothills High School in the amount of $674,394.66 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
A motion and a second?
Love the 66 cents.
I know, right? Don't go a penny
Yes.
over.
Absent any further comments or suggestions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks, Amy. All right, we're going to move on to item number 4, which is our unfinished business. We're going to invite Cheryl Castro, our Executive Director of Curriculum and Assessment, to the podium. Item 4.1 is approval of revisions to policy JFABC, admission of transfer students. This is a second reading and an action item.
Yes, thank you. You'll recall from last week, we talked about how House Bill 2645 added statutory language that requires us to make revisions to policy for students who transfer schools in grades 9 through 12, students who are in foster care. We reviewed on page 30 of your board packet the 5 bullets that outline, actually I think it's 6, let me check. Yeah, 6 bullets that are already in place for students who transfer. These are requirements and procedures that we have to calculate and accept academic credits. We talked about transferring credits and counting them as core or elective, attempting to count as many core credits as possible for these students in foster care. We talked about the 10 business days that students need to receive their records and to update the graduation plan in a meeting with school officials. We did change that language to from days to business days. Dr. Matajasic has a contact up in ADE, and on the day after our board meeting, she contacted him to ask if it was business days or calendar days, and he has not yet responded. We are guessing that he's going to say that it's business days, and so we put it in the policy as such. If he comes back tomorrow or later and says that it's calendar days, we'll bring this back to you with that change. But for now, everything that said days was changed to business days. So thank you for that suggestion. We also talked about how we have competency assessments to award full or partial credit, and that we, the biggest change for this one was when students who are in foster care who transfer in grades 11 and 12, we can't hold them to the same graduation requirements we have for our students who are with us for 4 years. And so the statute requires us to allow them they can meet the state requirements. So the changes that were made to the policy since the last time were, as I said, the days was changed to business days. And then I think I mentioned on the first page, on page 30, there was some language that was different at the top of the document and the bottom that referred, it was public schools, private school, Arizona online instruction, et cetera. We changed that to mirror in those 2 places. And then there was a table that was added so that you could see on page 34 what the state requirements are for 22 credits and then the CFSD requirements for graduation. We also noted the Arizona civics test is still a requirement even for students who transfer to us as students in foster care. So that was a recap of policy JFABC, if you have questions on that. Practicing
It was a great addition
wait time.
to put the chart in there at the end.
Yeah, I think that helped to clarify it. And I think you're right, that people, right now, all of us know what it is, but they might not be around, and people who read this need to know what the requirements are. So that was a good suggestion, thank you.
We'll have to remember if we ever change any of our requirements.
That we have to come
back
back.
to this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think
That's
they're
what all
all,
the cross-references
I
are
was just
for,
gonna say,
right?
that's where they come in handy, right?
Yeah.
The cross-references.
Ready for a motion?
If there's no further discussion, I sure am.
I move the governing board approve the revisions to policy JFABC, admission of transfer students as presented.
We have a motion and a second to approve the approval of revisions to policy JFABC. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I hope I didn't mess up your wait time. Did you want to wait longer?
No,
than
it was good.
Okay.
I liked how, I think it all worked out. It felt good. Did it feel good? The wait time felt good.
All right.
Always a teacher.
Back to you, Cheryl, for item 4.2, approval of revisions to policy and regulation JFABDA and JFABDA-R, admission of students in foster care. Again, a second reading and action.
So as we talked about last week, due to the revisions in policy JFABC, there were some changes that were needed in policy and regulation JFABDA and JFABDAR. JFABDA, we didn't change much to this except to add the days, business days, where it said days before. And then on page 38, we did add part F to refer to all of the requirements that the district has to support students who transfer into our schools, students who are in foster care. That was the only change on JFABDA. And then on regulation, JFABDAR, we added a lot of changes on this. And we discussed how these were to outline the procedures that the district would take to related to students in foster care who transfer to us in grades 9 through 12. Under the bullet on in JFABDAR, the first bullet under the section titled admission, we changed IE to EG because that's the appropriate use of that abbreviation. And then we also added under the section admissions and disputes, there was an and that was misplaced, so we moved that and up. There was a question Ms. Sigler asked about on page 42, the very last paragraph, best interest determination, children in custody of DCS. She was wondering about if that sounded redundant at all. I checked in with Dr. Matajasic, and she said that the BID, she called it the best interest determination, is something that is needed for their work, and it needs to be stated the way that it's stated here, and that it makes sense to them, and these are procedures that they follow when they're dealing with students who are in very rare cases that come to CFSD, but students who are in the custody of DCS. And so we did not make any changes on that particular section. And that was that for JFABDAR.
I move the governing board approve the revisions to policy JFABDA and JFABDA-R, admissions of students in foster care.
Before there's a second, there's a typo. I mean, it's really, really super minor.
Where is it?
It's in, hold on, sorry. It's in the first one, not the regulation, the policy. And it's the reference at the bottom, it says ARS 15.701. something, and it should be 15 dash.
Oh, I see it. Under F.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, go ahead.
Only an attorney.
I know.
I know.
But I did just look back at a different policy, and it is, there is a dash in that one, so I was,
Could be a new,
Oh, that's good.
it could be a new low, I know, sorry, but.
trying to figure out.
But if somebody wants to go find it and they Google 15.70, they're not gonna find it.
As corrected.
As corrected,
There you go.
as
Thank you.
amended.
Sorry.
No, thank you for finding that.
As corrected.
Okay, we have a motion and a second as corrected. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. All right, we're going to move on to our new business, which is going to be the approval of fiscal year 2024 annual financial report. This is an action item, and our Director of Finance, Lisa Tatel, is at the podium to walk us through this stuff. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, good evening. I am reporting on the 2024 annual financial report. On the cover sheet, the 2024 M&O expenditures totaled $38.7 million, leading to a carry forward of $2.4 million. On page 3 of 10, the classroom site fund is budgeted to its full capacity at $758 per weighted student count for fiscal year 24, along with budget balance carry forward. As of June 30th, 2024, the ending balance in this fund is $2.4 million. On page 4 of 10, the unrestricted capital, or DAA budget, differed from actual expenditures because the district must budget to the full amount of its capital budget capacity. DAA expenditures increased $3.4 million from the prior year, driven by higher capital override and construction costs. The increase in capital override spending was largely attributed to a new district-wide Apple computer lease. Construction expenditures increased mainly due to security enhancements across the district. Also on page 4 of 10, line 1, bond building expenditures totaled nearly $10 million in fiscal year 24. This amount includes construction costs for the Strings addition at Catalina Foothills High School, district-wide security enhancements, and the purchase of new school buses for the students. On page 5 of 10, line 34, notes the ending balance for federal and state projects is $1.1 million. The balance reflects the timing of revenues of ESSER 3 funds, as well as the remaining fund balance associated with results-based funding. On page 10 of 10, which presents the reporting for COVID-19 federal relief funds, the chart at the bottom indicates a remaining balance of $30,000 in ESSER 3 funds. This balance was fully expended by September 30th, 2024, and formally concludes the full utilization of all COVID-19 federal relief funds. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
You had mentioned results-based funding. What was the total for us for results-based funding in 2024? Do you know?
No, we didn't receive any in
We
2024.
didn't.
No, remember they put that into the base level funding, so.
I was going to put that in my memo, but
Yeah, they put
Sorry.
that, they removed results-based funding from the state budget and put it into the base level.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. And then, of course, we left no ESSER funds on the table. We spent them all by the deadline that we needed to spend them. Great job managing all of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And if I'm not mistaken, there were some things that we continued using other revenue sources that, other
We've absorbed the
systems.
expenses
We've
for the
absorbed the
things we
expenses
wanna
of things that we wanted to continue doing that we felt were effective.
correct. The counselors
Right.
mainly. And some math tutoring at the high school.
All in school day.
During the
Because I
school
think we
day.
had decided that the tutoring and the credit recovery that was being done outside of the school day was less effective than getting kids while they were at school.
We're continuing that at the middle schools as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just the high
The
school, right?
what?
The math, the additional math.
Math, yes.
You said at the high school, but it's middle schools as well, I think.
Well, the middle schools, that's a requirement that we have to provide that intervention, so that's not really a continuation. We had to have that. We have to have that.
Okay, thanks.
And in terms of security upgrades, I saw two buckets that this was coming out of, if I'm not mistaken. One was the 2.4 million on page 4 of 10, line 8. And the other was included, is the almost 10 million that you mentioned that also included some other things. But and those two totaled about $5 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, we used one-time DAA funding mostly for the Mac security upgrades. We used as much as all of the one-time funding, and then the rest came out of bond.
Thank you for the highlights. Super helpful,
Yes, it was.
That was her idea.
especially when the print is like.
It is really helpful.
It is,
Thank you.
it is helpful. Yeah.
I thought finding it was half the fun.
And,
Just half.
Any further questions or clarifications required on this?
can someone just remind me, please? I know that, so this is now the reconciled budget, and that's why we have to approve it. Is that correct?
It's the annual financial report. Yeah,
These are actuals.
with our actuals, yes. And it is an action item, so if people do not have further questions, I'd be interested in a motion.
I move the governing board approve the 2024 annual financial report as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the annual financial report for fiscal year '24. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Do want to commend you, Mrs. Tatel. I mean, this is we went through it very quickly, but this is a lot of work to do. So thank you for your time and effort in that, because it is a lot of work to put this together, even though we went through it very quickly.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I know, it seems kind of like
Yeah,
5 minutes later,
anticlimactic.
it's like, I can imagine how many hours.
It's quite a workload.
But I'd also like to acknowledge the appreciation for receiving the materials early, so that we had study
Absolutely.
time for that. You know, trying to do that in a few minutes here in a live meeting would be impossible, I think.
Right.
So thank you to you and to Lisa for ensuring we got those in a timely manner and could really spend time with that before tonight's meeting.
And it's so much easier to study it on paper
Yes.
than it is to try to
Yes.
look at it on here.
Yes.
So,
It's-
Exactly. So I know that causes even more work to get things to us early and to deliver it to us, et cetera. So thank you.
all right. Have a good night, Lisa. So we're going to move on to item 6, which is discussion and reports. Item 6.1 is a presentation by our Director of Community Relations, Julie Fabarek. She's going to talk to us about the Parent Square Urgent Notification Report, which is pretty timely these days.
I just interject one thing. So
Yes.
in July 1, we integrated all of our communication systems to this new system, Parent Square. And as you know, you are all members on Parent Square. We are able to send out various types of messages. But I've asked Ms. Fabarek to come tonight to speak specifically to the urgent messaging based on some of the discussions that have been circulating at the schools about receiving messages and things like that. So I asked her to come and really give us an in-depth information about the urgent messaging. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Bartlett. Thanks for having me tonight. I'm happy to be here with you. So this all really connects to our goal of and our commitment to parent engagement. And we know that we really need to be better at real-time messaging, especially during emergencies. That is critical. And Parent Square delivers reliable multi-channel information very quickly, and that's part of our commitment, along with clear communications and safety. So let me walk you through some of the capabilities that we have. So now we can send urgent alerts. We can send it via email, text, and voice, or all at once. It's preloaded with all of our Synergy information and parent contact info. And the urgent alerts override the individual notification preferences. So there are certain kinds of alerts where people cannot opt out. So in Parent Square, they have two types of alerts. And one is urgent alerts. So this is the one in a crisis. So this goes out all three ways: text, email, and voice to every single individual user.
So can you just clarify what you mean by voice?
Yeah, a phone call.
Okay. A
Yep.
recorded phone call? Or,
I'll walk you through that
Okay,
in just
all
a
right.
sec. Yep.
okay, thanks.
And users can't opt out of an urgent alert, and it blankets a whole school or a whole district. Those are the only two choices. With a smart alert, that gives you a little bit more flexibility. So with a smart alert, you can choose, I want it only to go out by text, or I want it only to be text and email and no voice, because the problem with voice is it shows that you missed a call from your child's school and you may just call the school back. But if everybody calls the school back, that could tie up the lines. Users can opt out of smart alerts. That's important to know. But it does have a very flexible recipient list. So I can send it to the parents of all the students on a bus. I can send it to all the parents of band. I can send it to a class or a school or a district. Now, both types of alerts offer automatic language translation, which we love because we do see quite a number of our parents receiving their messages in a language other than English. They remain on the platform for only 3 weeks, whereas a post lives there forever. This goes away after 3 weeks. And both have access to the same robust message library so that we can work very quickly. We can work from templates and we don't have to write everything on the fly. So Denise and I have gone through the past messages that we've sent out, past emails, past alerts, and we have built out this robust message library. So we have things that are kind of routine, like a safety drill, where the template might say, this is a safety drill, no actions required. Or something like a fire alarm. Fire alarm's in progress, this is not a drill, please evacuate the building and wait for further instructions. So the user can select, from this library in just a few clicks, which message they want to send, rather than actually have to compose it on the fly. So how do they do that? Well, it's really just 4 clicks, which is what we love about it. So 1, you're notified of an urgent situation. 2, you go into this message library, select the message. 3, you select the recipients. Is it going to just staff? Is it going to staff, parents, and students? And then obviously, if it's a smart alert, you can drill down even further than that, as I've talked to you about. And then you just click send. But here's a little animation that shows you what it actually looks like if you do it on your phone. So this is pretty fast, but I'll walk you through it. So we can literally send urgent alerts as we're heading to a situation. So in the app, we select urgent alert, we select the message we want to send, we select the recipients, we decide whether we want to include it on social media, and we hit send. The alert's gone. So what does this look like on the parent's end? It looks like a normal text message. It's going to have a bracket here with the initials of the school. So you know which school you're getting it from if you have students at multiple sites. And then it just reads as a text message. So Parent Square allows us to have a 300-character message, and it also allows us to embed a URL in there. So if we have a letter with more information that we want them to read, we can just include that as in part of the text. On our end, this is what it looks like. So we have this nice data dashboard, and we can see who actually got it. So this is a real test of the alert system that we used at Orange Grove that we sent to staff. And we can see how many people decided to get it by email, how many chose to get it by text, how many got it through the app, and whether they opened it or not. So we know whether it's working. So we looked at other systems. So OmniAlert is the system that the U of A uses for their emergency notices. And we wanted to compare what Parent Square offers versus what OmniAlert offers. So we know they both do mass notifications and features. They both do SMS, email, voice, and app notifications. Both have customizable templates and audience selection. Those are all really key factors that we wanted. Things we like about Parent Square is that it's designed for K-12 schools. OmniAlert is really designed for big, complex organizations, multinational companies, universities. We like the usability of Parent Square because it's really geared towards schools where things are written for classes, teachers, clubs, activities. It also offers language translation, which OmniAlert doesn't. So we really like that additional feature. And it gives us some more characters. Yeah, because messages are truncated after 160 characters, OmniAlert limits to 160. But with Parent Square, you get 300 characters. It will be truncated, so to see the whole message, you have to click on it to read all 300, but it's nice. It does give us a little bit more wiggle room to get information in there. So final points, data privacy is really key. Parent Square adheres to robust security standards. It meets FERPA regulations and all other relevant data privacy regulations. We really like the accessibility of it. So like Gina was asking about the voice. Well, it has a text-to-speech feature, so we can take the message and we enter it into the voice line, and it will either have a recorded voice that will read that message, or I can upload my own voice reading the message. So we have some nice options there. And then, of course, we have the language translation, which helps us reach more of our parents. And we're really, really committed to training our principals, our staff, so that anybody who's in the position of using the alert feature feels very comfortable with it, especially in case of an emergency. We know what, all of our blood pressure can rise in those situations, and sometimes we revert back to what we know, like email, and we really are excited now we have this additional tool that we can use. And then we're really committed to parent engagement. So we are going to keep checking in with our parents to make sure they feel well communicated with. And then we'll keep refining our processes so that we know that we're reaching everybody. So with that, I would love to take your questions.
I have a question. Yeah. Okay, so who will be authorized to send these urgent alerts?
Depends on the content of the alert. So a school closure would only come from Dr. Bartlett, and I could send it on her behalf. But principals are able to send, like we had a soft lockdown because a bobcat wandered on campus, or like a bus delay. Now we don't have to email the whole school to say a bus is delayed. Now we can just target bus 19 parents that can get it. So in that case, it could be the school staff who are enabled to send, that type of an alert. But in a crisis situation, it would be the principal, it would be myself, it would be Mindy, and Dr. Bartlett.
What was sent out the day of the Orange Grove threat?
So the Orange Grove threat, we reverted to what we knew, right? So we did a post instead of an alert. And even in a post, you can send it one of two ways. You can send it either urgently, or it's called instantly, which means everybody gets it right away, like an email, or you can send it based on the user's preference, which is either instantly if that's the way they want it, or it's as a digest at 6 p.m. at night. So we made the mistake of sending it as according to the user's preference.
So if it happened again tomorrow, identical circumstances, what would happen on your end? what would it look like?
Right, so then what we do is we send it as an alert, we would send it as an urgent alert, so we would blanket the whole school 3 ways, and we would have composed a message with a letter that was attached through a URL, so parents would have more information. So they would have actually received it at 6:59 as a text on their phone.
So if I was on that list, I'd get the text at the same moment I got the email, and at the same moment my phone rings?
Yep, you get it, I mean, you get it all at once.
They all happen.
They all happen at once.
And if that happened again tomorrow, you said that you would just do it to the Orange Grove community. Is that correct?
Yes, you do it to staff and parents.
So I'd like to dive in. I do appreciate that. And
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
I was very vocal last week in asking for, you to look into the U Alert. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you looking into this and bringing this
Yeah.
to attention. I do have a number of questions. Mostly picking up actually from where from Doug's question. If we were to take the Orange Grove situation again, I would like to understand, using the system, who would do what and when would they do it? I don't know if you've had the opportunity to work on those communication processes. And so if not, that's totally fine, but I would ask then that processes come back to us, either in a session or in an executive session, because in my experience, having the tool is the enabler, but if there aren't the processes behind it, we're still going to fall down, especially in times of crisis.
Well, we started working on a flow chart, but we need to add in these alerts. So it is in process, but we are working on a flow chart of what to communicate when and who. It is underway.
Okay, and timing for that? Any idea? I mean, roughly.
Well, we want to talk about it with the admin
Yes.
team. We want them to be
We
able
want their
to
input
weigh in.
into it. And our
But-
next meeting is the 15th of April, or 15th of October for them, that meeting.
But I think what we've talked about is we realize principals are really engaged in managing the situation. And so in all cases, I will probably be the one sending the alerts out and be the one composing the alerts.
And you'll have a backup if you're not available. You're allowed to go on vacation,
Yes, yes,
for example.
yes. We have backup, yeah.
And so, for example, would those processes then include the communication templates, who's on first base, who calls you to say that it needs to go out, the timing, because it can't just be a one and done message, if it's the school informed, if it's the district informed, et cetera, will the processes, are you looking that broadly and that deeply?
Yes.
In these comms processes, communications processes? Okay.
Yeah, and my evaluation of the Orange Grove situation, it really was not about the team. The team was tightly engaged. It was really about one button was clicked instead of another, right?
Of course,
So
of course.
we can look at the processes, but I really think our processes are strong. We had a group chat going, and we were constantly communicating throughout the situation. So it was very easy to trade off responsibilities and make sure everything was covered.
Which I don't disagree with you. I guess when I'm talking about processes, I'm not questioning the behind-the-scenes processes and that the communication is there. I'm talking specifically about the communication out to the parents in the districts, or parents and communities, sorry.
Right.
And, for example, when does, that first message goes out, when does then, if we look at when, and again, I'm just taking the Orange Grove experience because that's a real life one that we can then look at, right?
Absolutely.
And sort of deconstruct.
Sure.
When did Mr. Rubentoll's message then go out to the community? When did your message go out to the community, et cetera? Are we happy with when those went out? Are we happy that, did those have to be written from scratch, or were those templates already available, for example? And if we can ensure, if we can use that very recent experience to shore up these processes and to shore up this, crisis communications management, I think it will be all the better for it.
I agree.
I think it's something that's going to be much like our emergency operations plans. There's an incident, and then we look at our emergency operations plans, and what did we learn from this incident?
Exactly.
And let's change this plan to reflect what we learned.
Exactly.
This will be just another aspect of that same process that's going to be a living, breathing document that we will live by and learn by and change as we need to.
Because just this week is when she built the templates for the urgent alerts, and so we have
Gotcha.
but yet we want feedback from the principals, like what
course.
else? She's thought of the
This is
best
what we've
ones
thought of.
we've got, but what other ones might you need? So that we can have those ready.
Yeah. Don't forget the mountain lion one, because we've heard that before.
What?
Mountain lion.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we got that.
Before.
I don't know.
Switch
Yeah,
out
yes.
Bobcat for mountain lion.
And then one very tactical
That'll suit.
question, Julie, if I may, going back to the voice, so it initiates a call, does it leave a voicemail? If it's
Yes.
not answered?
Yes.
Okay.
And it reads the identical message that's also texted
Okay.
and also emailed. Yeah.
So this system has been used before for mountain lions or bobcats. Is that true?
There was just one this week, wasn't there, a Bobcat one?
Yeah, there was just a Bobcat that,
Sunrise.
We've,
wasn't it?
yeah, we've sent out 4 alerts so far. All were from Orange Grove, but we haven't used it, I think.
Did they go
for-
out as urgent or smart?
They have used just the smart alert so
Sure.
far
I
because they
wouldn't
didn't
use
want to
urgent.
trigger the
Right.
I wouldn't
voice.
use urgent for a
part. Yeah.
bobcat.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
overkill, right?
I mean, because really, we want to use the urgent alerts very
Right.
sparingly.
very sparingly.
That's really the
Yes.
one that's.
We want parents to know if it
Crisis.
says urgent alert, they
Right.
need to
Yes.
read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you said the database draws from information that you have. So you have everyone's phone number for an urgent alert based on their registration, or you name something, the database
We
that
do
draws.
have it
Synergy.
for
Synergy.
parents, yeah.
Okay, so,
And then
and that's something that everybody has to give you their phone number and they can't opt out of an urgent alert. So
they
everybody.
cannot opt out of
theoretically-
an urgent alert.
So if you hit an urgent alert district-wide right now, my phone would go off. Although I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm in there anymore. My kids have graduated. But a year ago, it would go off. Okay.
And I would assume that most of the phone numbers that we have are cell phone numbers.
Right,
And if one of them isn't, I assume we ask for both,
right.
or whatever, however many numbers. And that's a question. So if somebody gives you a so-called landline number and a cell phone number, does it go to both numbers?
No, it only
pick a
goes to the
primary.
preferred primary number. And it will even tell us, like, we think this is a landline that it went to. So
Can you
it
push
shows
it
us
through
like
if you know
5.
it's a landline? If they tell you they think it's a landline, can you push it through?
Do it to a second.
Well, it already
Because
goes,
sometimes if I accidentally send a text to somebody's landline, it'll tell me for 23 cents I can push it through to the landline, the message to the landline.
that I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me look into that.
And I believe that's when the voicemail or the
Yeah, right.
other email would
Would take care of it
go
anyway, you're
through.
right.
Yeah.
It would take care of it anyway, that's a very good point.
They get a
Okay.
voicemail.
So we know we have a phone number for everybody, whether it's a cell phone number or not, because obviously getting a text is going to be the most immediate way to notify somebody. If I'm not at my home and all you have is my landline and that's my primary, I'm not going to get that till I come home and maybe pick up my voicemail.
Right.
So maybe some sort of push to parents because of something like
Yes.
this, that we prefer to know your cell phone number as primary
Yes.
for these purposes, some sort of
Yeah.
marketing campaign.
In the next few weeks, we're going to send something out to staff and to parents saying, take a look in your account and make sure we can reach you in case of an emergency.
Right.
You know, make sure we have all that information.
Good.
So that's what I was gonna ask about, how this is gonna be communicated out to parents, but also it occurs to me, so Synergy has the parents' contact information, but grandma and grandpa frequently are picking up the kids. Or parents go on vacation and grandparents are in charge, but those numbers may not be there. So is there a way that parents or guardians, or, I'm saying parents loosely, the primary responsible people who would be in Synergy can contact the district and say, for this period of time, or add this person as a second or third contact at the same time, or for temporary, like if I'm gonna be out of town for 2 weeks and grandma's staying with my kids, you know what I'm saying? So, because
Right. Well, we already have had questions about grandparents that pick up
Yeah.
children and want to know about shifting schedules and things like that. So that's another area of Parent Square. It's called community groups. And grandparents can create a Parent Square account in community groups. They're considered guests, and we can push out alerts to guests as well. So if grandparents are intrinsically involved in the kids' lives, we would definitely recommend that those grandparents create their own Parent Square accounts, and they would be in a group attached to that child's school.
Okay.
And then in an urgent situation like that, we would include guests as recipients of these alerts.
Okay, so parents
Yeah.
need to understand it's incumbent on them to
Mhm.
include the people in their kids' lives
Yes.
who need to be alerted.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry, go ahead.
So at one point, I don't think we had all of our parents signed up for Parent Square. Did we?
They're still gonna get these alerts.
They still
But
get
those-
them.
Okay, so you still have the phone number, but you might not have anything else. If people haven't signed up for Parent Square.
No, they don't really need to sign up. So it
Okay.
pulls all of our info from Synergy. If they haven't ever gone into Parent Square, never logged in, they still get the emails. They get the emails as a digest at the end of the day.
Okay.
But these alerts override that digest, and they send it to them instantly, whether they've logged into Parent Square or not.
So the fact that some people never did sign up for Parent Square, we're
They're
not
in it.
having any of
They're
that.
in-
They're still signed up.
Yes.
They're still gonna get the
We've
text,
created
they're
an
still gonna
account
get
for
the
every
voice, and they're still
single-
gonna get the
Okay.
email.
Yeah.
Only for the urgent alerts or also for the smart alerts?
They could get smart alerts too.
Okay.
Yeah. They can opt out of the smart alerts.
Oh, I see.
They have the
But
choice.
they have to make an account to opt out.
They'd have to
Right.
go
They never
in
made
and
the
turn it
account.
off.
They have to work
Yes,
on
they
it.
have
So
to
they
go in and
automatically
turn it off.
opted
Okay.
in, or are they automatically opted out? Which way does it work?
Smart.
No, for smart alerts, they'd have to opt out.
So they're automatically opted in?
They're automatically in.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I like that.
But they can adjust their notifications like,
Yes.
getting too
But I
much
like that they're on
information.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You had mentioned we have a choice on an alert to do the whole school, a whole school, or a whole district. So
For the urgent alert.
for
yeah.
the urgent alert, so if we had something that affected 2 schools, you'd have to send out 2 separate alerts to get it to just those 2 schools.
Correct.
As opposed to the whole district.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. And, designed for K through 12 schools, as opposed to the U of A piece. I guess I'm not sure really what that means, because don't we do everything that kind of tailors it to our K through 12 use? What does it mean that it's designed for K through 12 schools?
Because it gives you options for classes, teachers, groups, clubs, activities, sports. Whereas something like OmniAlert, it's for multinational corporations, it's for universities, it's for complex organizations that have different components, but it's not really tailored to a K-12 school environment.
So
It
we
does-
probably have to go in there and build a lot of groups in, correct?
Yes, and
the
it
data.
doesn't talk to Synergy.
Right.
So it'd be
Right.
another system that parents would have to
Right.
enroll in and enter all of their information
Omni, you
into.
mean, if it was a
Omni
completely
doesn't
different.
talk to
right,
Synergy.
Omni
yeah.
doesn't talk to
Is
Synergy.
But I mean,
Okay.
even within the data that we have from Synergy, if we wanted to send it just to baseball players at the high school, we have to build that group somehow, right? We have to tell it how to find those people.
Yep, but that's
somehow.
really easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
We just ask the registrar for the list of student ID numbers for those students, and then we just feed those into Parent Square and we create the group. So we've done that not just for band,
Gotcha.
but for saxophone players, for, I mean, we
So
can
that's
get
probably
very
something that's
specific.
constantly
Oh, wow.
growing and changing
If there's
as
a
well.
need for
Right.
talking to a particular group, we can create
That's
it
But
pretty
it sounds
easily.
like, I mean, somebody like Renee Shane Boyd could create a group just for her marching band or for.
Yes, we already do have a
Yeah.
group for marching band, and it's actually 7 different groups because she wants it by class period. So,
Wow.
I think bringing us back to the
Yeah.
urgent part here, right? Because I think it's fantastic that it does all of those things for like running the school and such stuff. That's great. However, the I think the concern and what prompted this more is the urgent crisis communications that need to go out. The number of groups, does that get in the way of sending out urgent blanket communications?
Urgent alerts don't use groups. They only can be sent to a school or a district.
Brilliant. So thank you.
And you can't differentiate students versus parents versus faculty. It's everybody at that school on an urgent alert, or can you break
You
it
can
up?
do staff, parents, students, and guests.
Okay, so you do have some options for urgent within the school. Good.
Because you can imagine situations
be a
where we only
situation
want to
where-
communicate to staff and
Right.
give them certain
Yep.
instructions.
I
Yeah.
got you.
Right,
Don't push the wrong button.
right.
Wish you could opt out of the calling.
Yes,
urgent,
we
but
still, yeah,
it is.
you still have to remain calm
Fallback.
under pressure in these
Fallback.
Yeah.
situations,
Just be
even though we
nice.
have a good
Take the text.
system in place.
Better
That's a
over
good
communicate
question.
than under communicate in an
Exactly.
urgent
We're gonna get your
situation.
attention one way or the other.
Can you opt out of any of the 3 communication methods during an alert?
Urgent alert, you cannot opt out
Out of
of
anything.
All
anything.
three. You have to have all
Okay.
three.
You're gonna get it whether
Smart
you
alert,
need
you
it or
can't.
not.
Control it.
So, and we can't control
can't
it
control
if
it
we
either. It's
only
all
want
three.
it sent by text.
Exactly.
It'll go by all 3.
Yes.
Pardon,
If
an
you're
urgent
sending
alert?
it can only be,
Yes,
to
urgent
all
alert
three
can only
methods.
go out.
All
Okay.
three methods.
One of the things that I've seen on other similar communications is that the voice message simply includes a line of do not call this number back.
yes.
And, this is a
Right.
outbound message only, don't call this number back.
Check your
Yeah,
And, so you may just want to consider including something along those lines in that voice text so that
They do.
you don't have people trying to jam up.
Yes,
line.
that's a great idea.
I think that's pretty easy to, not everybody will pay attention to it. It's pretty easy to manage.
That's a really good idea.
I personally really appreciate this deep dive into it. I think that what I'm seeing here is that it's probably the right system, but that there's a lot of work to do on the processes. And I trust that you're doing that work. I'm nervous about the time that it's taking. It seems to be taking a long time, but good work does take time as well. So I'm trying to reconcile that in my mind. I know this is a top priority. I trust that you're continuing to move as expeditiously as possible in creating and fine-tuning these, or not creating, but in fine-tuning these crisis communications processes.
Yes, and the process that we, as she said, the process that we had in place for the Orange Grove incident was it was an effective process. Again, we clicked the wrong thing. So we would fall back to that and revert back to that until we have a different process in place.
That's a fair comment.
You could do scenario-based training where you give the principal, hey, here's a situation that's unfolding. What are you gonna do? Which alert are you gonna use and which groups? That would be the best time.
That's exactly what we want to do when we get the admin team
You come up with some
together.
good ones where you're like, oh,
Yes.
that's in 2
is
weeks.
this trip the
Because-
urgent or am I
The
gonna
admin
go?
team meeting is in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, and next week we're out,
It's-
of course.
Right,
Right.
oh,
So
because it's
it's
fall break.
The following
Yeah.
week.
Right.
So
It's a week from today. Oh, no, it's 2 weeks from today, yeah.
yeah, 2 weeks from today.
That would be the best way to do training. And the fact that the Orange Grove, that the wrong button was hit is obviously a very good training mechanism. It's like, okay.
As Mark said in his safety meeting, he guarantees that will never
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
I mean, you had the system, but until you actually execute it, you don't know how it's gonna happen. And
Exactly.
You reverted back to what you knew. That's a great comment, what happens in training systems.
It is,
Yeah.
Well, and there are many pieces to this system, and we just implemented on July 1.
Yep, you're
Right.
all more familiar with
We're
it
all,
now.
you're all learning.
So we
about
are
it.
still learning this system.
But we're
But
still
for me,
heads
the
and tails
bottom,
over- Heads and
yeah.
tails over where we would have been last year without the system.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
A Blooms or a Remind.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
it would have been a
Imagine.
mess. Yeah, for
shooting
me,
it out over all this system.
what I feel is that we are in a much better
Oh, yeah.
place with this system.
100%.
You know, our system used to be sending out an email through
Yeah.
School Messenger. And it was very basic. I remember it used to say like MacBook Mail.
Yes.
right.
So I'm really excited about what's possible, and we really want this to be inclusive. We really want the admin team to be a big part of this, determining this flow and determining these processes and making these templates their own. So it is going to take some time. But I think we're doing a great job. I think we're moving actually really fast. We've done all these safety sessions. We've got those set up. I think the responses we're getting from families, we talked to parents last night at the foundation meeting that really were so complimentary of Mark and of the fact that we held the safety session, that I feel like just a lot of good things are coming out of this. And I also feel confident if this were to happen tomorrow, I would send this alert out within 60 seconds.
The Orange Grove incident was actually fortunate because it made everybody focus and shine a light on what needs to happen. Because that had to happen.
Yes.
That had to happen. We'd
Yes.
just all be kind of kicking along.
Yes.
in That same, you
Thinking
know,
everything-
if we had
Exactly.
something worse, because Orange Grove truly wasn't that bad.
No.
I know just you
Right.
guys that disagree with me on that, but compared to what it could have been. So now I'm much happier that we're truly prepared in case the unthinkable happens and we have something we really get out to some group.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks for the
so
presentation,
much.
Julie, we appreciate
You
it.
know, I was thinking, I know you just wrapped it up, but, I mean, last year we had all these different ways to communicate. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I can't
All
even tell you
different
how many
ways.
different schools.
Mind blooms.
Too many.
Yes. And the only way the district could send something out was through school messenger or an email.
Right.
Yeah,
And so putting it all into this.
yeah.
You saw how easy it was. I sent out that safety sessions, message today. It was very simple to do. Much easier because we never had access to do the school messenger. It had to go through our director of educational technology. So we would have to send the message up to our director of educational technology, and then she would be the one that would send that out. So that, again, it was just another step in the ladder of getting that message out quickly. And so this is a much quicker, we all have access to do that.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for adding that to our agenda. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
All right, item 6.2 is Arizona legislative / governmental activity. Hearing none. Future agenda considerations for anyone?
I will say, under the Arizona legislative governmental activity, I was invited to a roundtable discussion with Governor Hobbs.
Oh,
So she is coming to Southern Arizona to talk to some superintendents about some of our priorities.
wonderful.
So,
Great.
Friday morning, I will be down at the JTED building with some other superintendents
Great.
and speaking with her in a roundtable discussion.
That's great.
Great.
That's great.
Besides money, no.
Yeah, well, I figured
You'll hear that a
AEL
couple of times, I'm sure.
AEL and the,
Teacher retention.
Sorry, I just had to say that.
Yeah.
at least we're having an ear. We're getting an ear.
Future agenda considerations.
Who has agenda planning?
The two of us. She
Tomorrow at
raises her
10.
hand.
I,
You're well trained.
All right. Well, item 8.1 is an executive session on confidential records pursuant to section 38-431.03A2, discussion or considerations of records exempt by law from public inspection, including the receipt and discussion of information or testimony that is specifically required to be maintained as confidential by state or federal law, and executive session on school safety as well, pursuant to ARS 38-431.0388, discussion or consideration of matters relating to school safety operations or school safety plans or programs.
I move what you just said.
You moved what I just said,
Second
okay?
one.
We have a motion and a second to move into executive session. You guys all know the drill. We'll reconvene into regular. No future action is going to be taken in this board meeting. We will simply move to adjourn at that point. So, thanks everybody for coming. Thank you,
We
Julie.
need to
Thanks,
vote-
Cheryl.
We need to vote on going into executive.
Yeah,
Oh,
we didn't
that's right. That's right. All those in favor of going into executive session?